not about politics. It's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. We're just going to play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
I just get in and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It's Just Football. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Mike Renner. Here to recap what we saw on Monday Night Football last night. A wild coaching hire. Identify some dogs of the week from this past week's NFL action. And also draft MVP candidates against one another. Mike, that's going to be fun. It's a jam-packed show. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. I'm excited for that MVP segment. A little something different we haven't done yet.
We did not pre-record this one. Sometimes we pre-record them because, we got to get the graphics set up. This is all live. So the reactions, the freak out, the analysis, everything, we're each going to go back and forth. We're going to draft against each other 5 MVP candidates and see at the end of the year who actually had the correct MVP in their group. I noticed we're not really matching, different shades of green here. I'm happy for us.
Yeah.
We're at least getting away from that.
Exactly. Like the spread is still the same color, but just we're hitting different shades at least.
I'm not gonna lie. When I get dressed in the morning now, I go, which color would Mike least wear today? And that's how we get to that point. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat. What's up? Thank you for watching the show. Shout out to Matthew, who was our chat champ for yesterday, getting in on the action today as we do our Dogs of the Week call-outs. Need Matthew to represent the chat for everybody in there as we hear from you guys as well. You guys pointing out who your Dogs of the Week were from this past week of NFL action. Now getting the production portal, the production booth, the boys on the other side of the glass into the show. Quinn, how we feeling today, my friend?
So that's sticking, right? The production
boys.
portal. I kind of like it.
I'm kind of like firing from the hip here with it and just seeing what sticks. If you guys like the production portal, then I'm going to stick with it. People don't have to know that we're like 10 yards away. You guys could be like across the country, honestly.
I don't, yeah, I guess that's 10 yards.
Come on, it's 10 yards, right?
There's literally like yard markers on the studio floor.
Oh, yeah, they're actually
Are those accurate, though?
I don't think they're accurate at all.
I would be pleasantly surprised if they were actually
don't
accurate.
think that they're accurate. Wow, PFF not accurate with their measurements. Okay. What do we have for a question of the day here, Quinn?
Yeah, so Justin Houston, who, spoiler alert, might be a dog of the day. He now has 110.5 career sacks. Who are the only active NFL players with more career sacks than Justin Houston?
Ooh, good question.
Oh, is there a number? I assume there's a number, so we don't have
like
to keep naming.
How many active?
Yeah.
Like all right,
how many are there?
That'll be your first hint. It's 2.
Okay, it's 2.
Okay, so it's 2. Is Terrell Suggs still technically active?
I don't believe so.
Did he technically retire?
Man. On a roster right now.
Yeah. Oh, so they got to be on a roster.
Yeah, active. Like actually playing and actually getting
I would have guessed that Justin Houston's got the most.
My first thought
J.J. Watt.
was J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
And then my second thought was Chandler Jones. I know
Chandler Jones is a good guess.
I know they're both over 100.
I think Watt's a very solid guess. Jones is also a solid guess. I'm trying to think of older, like Calais Campbell's not going to have it.
Yeah, it's just he was never like a
Jason Pierre-Paul's not going to have it.
Although he is old.
Robert Quinn's not going to have it, even though he's had some crazy years.
I think he just got over 100, right? Robert Quinn?
He's close. If he's not over, he's close. But I don't think he's got more than 110 and a half.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll peek at the chat now that I got my actual guesses out. People are saying Vaughn. Does Vaughn have over 110?
That's not because he's been in the league now.
He has, but man.
So 11 years. Yeah, I would guess Vaughn.
All right.
I guess I'll go.
Vaughn and JJ are probably the main two. Dave so far said Josh Uche. Probably not. The Buzzard also shouted out Robert Quinn. BJ said Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan's been sneaky consistent for the last 12 years. Or
never high sack guy though.
Always
more
like 10.
Pressure than
It's like 10.
But that's 10 for 11 years.
I still think Cam Jordan's probably in the low 90s.
Yeah, I'd say 90.
I don't think he's quite there yet. All right, well, you guys can mull over it before you give your final answers that we have here at the end of the show. Question of the day: Justin Houston 10.5 career sacks. which active NFL players, so they got to be on rosters, have more than that? I think we're probably going to go with J.J. Watt and Von Miller, but that's a good question.
Both 11 drafts, so that's 11 years now they've been in the league. J.J. Watt probably of those 11s missed probably 2 to 3 seasons, but even still at his peak was a 15-plus guy year in, year out. I think Von's pretty much a lock to be one of those guys.
Justin Houston is a great segue into the first thing that we got to talk about today, because on the show yesterday, we broke the news to the world. No, we didn't, but the news broke while we were on the set. That Frank Reich was fired from the Indianapolis Colts. And a mere hours later, I wish we were still live on the set, when Jim Irsay announced
the news
that
to the world.
Jeff Saturday, the former center, 14-year All-Pro center, was taking over as interim head coach. Mike, he is not a coach on the roster. He has not been a coach for the Colts. He has not been a coach in the NFL. He has not been a coach in college football. The last time that Jeff Saturday was coaching was private school, high school football. Hebron Christian Academy for 3 seasons. He had a 20-16 record, and now they are making him the interim head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. First thoughts, second thoughts, overall thoughts. What do you got?
Well, quite the upgrade there for Saturday. Quite the raise for him. I'll say this. A lot of people were up in arms and upset. I love it.
Oh, don't do this.
I love this.
Do not do this.
From Jim Irsay. This is a move that just does not happen in the modern NFL, in the world of these coaching search firms and all these decisions being so overanalyzed from every single angle. This is Jim Irsay saying, I know Jeff Saturday very well. I know the type of guy he is. I know that he can lead men. Now, will he succeed? No clue. But it's an interim head coach. Look back to last year. Rich Bisaccia had about as good an interim head coaching debut as you could possibly have. Got the Raiders to the playoffs.
Rich Bisaccia was a coach.
And then he goes on, though, to be a special teams coordinator this year. He is not.
You guys are still showing the screen as you're Googling things. Just to let you know.
Rich Bisaccia is not, it did not do anything for him. There is nothing you can do as an interim head coach really to put your name on the map as a head coach. This is not an opportunity that he's getting over other people. This is just Jim Irsay trying to right the ship in any way, shape, or form he can. Now, will it right the ship? There's almost zero doubt in my mind that it won't work out. And that Jeff Saturday is not going to be your head coach next season. But it's going to be fun to watch. And that's really all we care about in the NFL. This is an entertainment business. And right now, they're not an entertaining team before this.
Rich Bisaccia was coaching for 40 years. 40!
Yes.
Before he got that interim coach job. Look,
Well, what I'm saying is he got it, knocked it out the park, and it didn't actually lead to any more opportunities for him.
No, right.
You know?
The future part of this is probably, I agree with you there. Look, and the outside the box thing is kind of cool, obviously. But I think it's incredibly disrespectful. I don't know Jeff Saturday at all whatsoever. From all accounts, they were asking people around the media, because he works for ESPN. He's an ESPN analyst right now. So they were asking tons of people who know him really well in the media industry about this, and all of them were like, hey, Jeff, great dude, happy for him, all this. I don't know him personally, so great, opportunity for him, cool, happy for him, everything. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to so many coaches who absolutely grind to the bone just for the chance at continuing to climb the ladder to maybe get a chance at these one day. I understand that Jim Irsay is the owner of the Colts and he can do whatever he wants. He owns that football team. But that doesn't make this any less disrespectful. Outside the box, fun, sure. Those are adjectives that we can say about this current situation. But that doesn't eliminate the negatives of what it is, which feels disrespectful and really manipulative of the system that isn't really set up great anyways to get the right head coaches in the right spots. That's my thoughts. It's wild.
I mean, sure.
It's wild.
I don't think it's, obviously, if you're in that position as one of the assistants there in Indy, or just any coach who's in the NFL right now, you're probably hurt by this move, or you're probably looking at the move thinking it sucks. But Jim Irsay is the owner of a team.
He can, in fact,
do whatever the hell he wants.
He can, in fact, do whatever the hell he wants.
And it's more like if you're a fan of the Indianapolis Colts, what would you rather have? Them just promote another guy inside to clean house at the end of the season? No, you're a fan of the team. You want plays like this, bold moves like this that maybe it won't work out, but either way, it's going to be more fun to watch whatever the hell the product they're putting on the field.
I mean, we're going to be talking about the Colts a lot more. Sure, we're definitely going to be doing that. Jim Irsay said yesterday why fans should trust him on the move, and he said, well, I've never hired a losing head coach, basically she said, simply put. And I thought that was a beautiful PR move by him, because not only is he hiring Jeff Saturday to an interim head coach, so he can always just use that as like a little scapegoat if it doesn't work out. He's also not hiring a coach. Because Jeff Saturday's not a coach. So this is the ultimate. That was the ultimate PR statement yesterday by saying, "Hey, I've never hired a losing head coach. You're right, and here you haven't either, because it's an interim title that he's taken on, and he's not a head coach."
I would just like to say, if he wasn't an interim coach and this was like next year,
like
they
full
hired
contract,
him, then it's a completely different story, in my opinion. Like, it's the fact that it's an interim that those jobs just don't lead to head coaching jobs usually. They are almost just a name in title only rather than an actual opportunity. Then I would have a different take on it.
Did you see Saturday's tweet about the Raiders, because they play the Raiders this upcoming week? And I don't remember what the exact tweet was, but he was basically like, the Raiders stink. And now he's coaching against the Raiders. Look, he wasn't wrong when he tweeted that.
Yeah.
So, I can't wait to see people just fire off the Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday bitching at each other on the sidelines video. That's going to be very funny. I am going to enjoy that.
I am curious, though, what this means for Chris Ballard, because at some level, like, you can only have, Jim Irsay trusts you so much, be in Jim Irsay's back pocket so much, but this is not a move that he probably went in and improved. If you're Chris Ballard, he probably wasn't like, yeah, this is a move we want to make. So it was probably Jim Irsay, kind of flexing on him to a degree, and maybe it's a sign that either he's gone at the end of the year or he's given up some power in the decision-making element there in India.
The part of that I would say is that, them firing Reich when they did at the middle of the season, I feel like they would have also fired Ballard at that time, but maybe not, just because they know they have to deal with front office things. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes for them to hire in the middle of the season. So perhaps Ballard is still gone in the future. But this honestly might have been a move where the number one thing that Jim Irsay was thinking in his head was, we are not signing another damn bridge quarterback. I am gonna hire my friend to coach this team who has no coaching experience. I'm gonna pay him a lot of money to do it. And I don't want to say set up for failure, because if he hits it big, cool. Jim Irsay looks like a genius. And if he doesn't, which is much more likely, guess what? Colts are going to be a bad football team, and they're going to be picking near the top of the draft. And there's going to be no excuse to not get a draftable quarterback in this situation. So that's where I think all of this is coming from. A lot of people in the chat, as you would expect, are not fans of this move. T-Money actually says, who cares? I think he's talking about this situation. William said, boys club confirmed. Carlos said, extremely disrespectful. Carlos saying that he could coach at a private school. Jared said, I'm tired of seeing the same coaches get recycled, so why not get some randoms in there and take the shot? The Buzzard said he's the owner, Irsay that is. He can do whatever he wants. AC said you could tell that this is a desperation move. Alex pointed out that Jeff Saturday's last season as a high school head coach, he was 3-7. I can't fact check that off the top of my head. Maybe the production guys can, but yeah. Peter said Irsay went full Jerry Jones to farm content. Yeah, look, everybody needs content. That's what we need on this show. That's why you guys are watching. We'll see what happens from here on out. But that was a wild, wild move that happened yesterday in the NFL. Let's get to the Monday Night Football game that happened last night. Ravens come away victorious 27-13. This game did not go over like I predicted it would, but the Ravens did cover the 1.5 like I figured they would here. Mike, let's talk about some stats that matter. First stat that I want to bring up, Ravens offensive line. Okay, this is the 8th straight game in which the Ravens have rushed for over 150 yards as a team. That is what you want to see. That should be the floor for this team, and they are achieving that goal. Last night, that right side of the offensive line looked imposing. Morgan Moses and Kevin Zeitler had above 80 run blocking grades. Morgan Moses, a 95.2 run blocking grade. That is wild. Lamar Jackson, an elite 91.1 rushing grade, and had 73 yards before contact as a team. That was 4th most in the NFL this past week. What do you think about the Ravens offensive line, Mike? I almost called you Mark. Morgan. Mike, Morgan. What do you think about this?
I do think this goes back to why Lamar Jackson, why we're talking about Justin Fields, why these guys have such high floors and are so valuable. True rushing threats to the quarterback position. Throw Jalen Hurts in there as well, because you can be without Mark Andrews. You can be without Rashad Bateman. You can be going up against a difficult front seven to run on in this league, a talented front seven in the New Orleans Saints, and still move the football because you're gaining back numbers, and Lamar Jackson is such a dynamic threat at that position that it just makes your job for your offensive line easier with the angles of attack when you can leave one guy unblocked on any given play, an option off of them. This Ravens rushing attack, if they continue like this, they can win games in the playoffs. Now, the defense has to perform as well, and you're obviously going to want Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman back at that point. But this is what makes Lamar Jackson so special, what makes him so valuable, why we're putting him in the MVP category, despite his passing numbers not looking like the other guys in the MVP categories, because you can win games like this in the NFL.
Sticking with the Ravens on the defensive side of the ball, Roquan Smith, their new linebacker, 39 snaps last night, had an 87.3 run defense grade, a very clutch 3rd and 1 solo stop that everybody was talking about and replaying on the highlights. That run defense grade was first on the team, and he also had those 2 solo stops, not only the one that I just mentioned, but another one later in the game. That was the most on the team as well. So, Mike, looks like, hey, we brought this guy in for a reason. He is already showing up exactly why they brought him in.
Yeah, and if there was, the weakest link probably on this Baltimore Ravens defense, it was the linebacker position. But Patrick Queen improved a ton of late as well. Have to give a shout out to him. He had a big day on Monday night as well. So that duo now, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, the speed they have at that second level is just different. You had to throw in Kyle Hamilton in the mix also, who had a pick called back in this game. Those 3 guys kind of roaming the middle of the field for this defense, that's a game-changing trio. That is a trio that is going to be difficult to move the football on if those guys on the outside can play better than they have early on in the season.
Flipping over to the Saints side of things, look, they scored 13 points at home. It was not pretty. Alvin Kamara had 9 attempts on 30 carries. Dalton barely had over 200 yards passing. Chris Olave was great in the passing game, but nobody else is really reliable with a lot of those guys hurt. Honestly, Mike, the stat that matters from this game is it's another loss for the Saints, and it's another loss that does not help them at all. Their first-round pick right now is in the possession of the Philadelphia Eagles. It is number 6 overall that they have traded already. They've got the 11th toughest schedule remaining, so almost a top 10 tough schedule remaining on the season. That means that I don't think that pick's going to get that much lower. And when I say lower, I mean like further down the draft order. Instead, I think it's going to get higher, if anything. This team is $62 million over the cap. They have $62 million negative cap going into next year. Mike, it does not look good right now in New Orleans.
Yeah, the Saints are the poster boys, right, for this team-building method of all in every year.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be able to figure out the cap, get as much talent as we can on this year to maximize our window. And, when Drew Brees retires, when some of the guys are paying a lot of money to do age out of the NFL and their effectiveness, well, then we hit a reset. I think they kind of missed the window on that reset and when they were supposed to, because to me it was this year. This was it. Like the talent had depleted to a position where I probably wouldn't have gone out and signed guys like Tyrann Mathieu. I probably wouldn't have signed the contracts that they did in free agency, and definitely wouldn't have traded a future first-round pick to make the move back into the first round that they did this year, because as you're seeing, that first-round pick very well could be a top 10 pick. And they're not the only ones paying for that team-building method. Got people like the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, who did a lot of those similar moves to try to go all in for this little window here. Rams capitalized on it. Packers, Saints have not.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good in New Orleans. Not looking good. I wish I could cite a better stat for you from last night. Obviously, had a great win last week against the Raiders, but just night and day difference this week, and it's tough to look at the rest of this Saints season and get a lot of hope that things are going to get better. And unfortunately, it's hard to turn your attention to draft season. But we'll be here for you if you want to do it. If you want to talk about some of those later picks, how they could be helping you, we're here for you. We're going to help you. We're going to get through a lot of draft season stuff, not on this show, but in future shows for sure. We talked about Lamar Jackson. You mentioned how highly we think of him behind that offensive line, how well he's been playing as of late. That brings us into our drafting segment for today. You and I are going to draft MVP candidates against one another. We've seen a lot of these guys, specifically quarterbacks, of course, play very, very well this season. But who are you taking an MVP? So that's what we are going to decide here on the show. 5 picks for Mike, 5 picks for me. We're going snake draft style?
Yes, let's snake it.
Okay, we'll go snake draft style. So obviously if you pick first, you get the first pick. If you pick second, you get the second pick, but then you also get the third, and then it kind of goes around from there. Anybody who's done a fantasy draft understands how snake drafting works. We're doing this for any MVP candidate. So we're going to pick a guy, and then we're going to make a case for him, why it's a strong one. We're going to keep these lists, 5 and 5. and see who ends up winning MVP at the end of the year, who actually drafted the future MVP, where they drafted them, see if they got some good value. And we would love to hear from you guys in the chat the whole way. Who we're picking, whether you think it's a crazy pick that it's early or late or whatever it is, what you think of a player overall, whether you even believe they have a shot at MVP, that's all on you guys. So we'd love to get you involved in it. Were you want to rock, paper, scissors for first pick?
I'll just give it to you. You take first pick.
Wow.
Gentleman here.
A gentleman as well? It's because you get two candidates.
I know.
It's because you get two candidates.
I want the rap. So suit me.
No, what if I want the rap?
Well, then give me the first pick if you want.
All right, fine. You take the first
All
pick.
right, I'll take the first pick.
All right. Take it.
I'm taking Patrick Mahomes.
No, all right. No, I want it back.
Patrick Mahomes is just, you can bank on him being consistent. That's the biggest thing. I know Patrick Mahomes is going to finish with somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 touchdown passes. I know he's going to finish somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 passing yards. You just know what's going to happen because it happens every single year. These other guys can have some up and downs. Patrick Mahomes has been doing it. And I think without Tyreek Hill there and seeing the success of Tyreek Hill in Miami and how much he's gone off, people are going to say, oh, like Patrick Mahomes can still do it. Like, it's going to kind of take away that excuse that maybe anyone who was holding out hope of Patrick Mahomes not being that guy was making for him the previous few years. No, he can do it with kind of, I don't want to say afterthoughts at wide receiver because they did pay him a good deal of money this offseason, a number of those guys. But guys that were picked over, not your cream of the crop, not a true, real number one type of wide receiver in that offense. And Patrick Mahomes still leads the NFL in touchdown passes.
Patrick Mahomes being the first pick off the board here for this MVP draft. I am very curious as to whether or not people agree with you on that, if he should have been the first overall pick. It's hard to argue against him, though, especially the way that he's been playing. We went into the year knowing that the Chiefs had the toughest schedule in the NFL. They're sitting here surviving it, playing very, very well, and Mahomes is the reason why. You can talk about these other weapons. You can talk about how well the interior offensive line is playing, how great of a head coach Andy Reid is, but at the end of the day, it's Patrick Mahomes that's making things work. Yeah. It is absolutely him that is running the engine to an unbelievable level, truly doing things that nobody else in this league is doing, even the other candidates that I'm going to name here coming up next. So he's got the notoriety, he's got the former hardware, he's got the big name, he's got the stats, and if his team gets the number one overall seed, it is very hard to argue against a player who is playing that well. I feel like they may have stumbled a little bit at the beginning of the year, but they're certainly hitting their strides and beating some really good teams. So you see the numbers on the screen there. That's what we're looking at with Patrick Mahomes, who was the first pick. Looking at the chat now. How do people feel about it? Shriel said Mahomes. Matthew said Allen. Peter said Mahomes. Oh, we've got a couple of different. Wow, we've got a Geno shout out too. I don't want to say too many names though, because I don't want you to remember them in case you forget them. My next two that I have here. The first one, I'll take Jalen Hurts. I'll take Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, a team that feels like I guess I can't say that they feel like they're running away with the number one overall seed because the Minnesota Vikings are sitting there at 7-1, and the rest of the division's obviously really good. But if the Eagles lose one game this whole regular season, it's going to be so hard not to just give them basically every award. Nick Sirianni, Coach of the Year, Jalen Hurts, MVP. Maybe somebody in there is Offensive Player of the Year. Maybe A.J. Brown ends up winning that, right? It's just there is so much going well for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I want to make it very clear. Jalen Hurts is a major reason why things are going very well. He is having an incredible season. He's got an 81.5 adjusted completion percentage, which is first in the NFL. And we have seen that he's not afraid to open it up a little bit more, attack over the middle, attack deep down the field. It's not like it's just these dink and dunk throws, man. He's stepping into things. He's very confident with it. Anytime you have an above adjusted completion percentage of over 80% on the season, that is fantastic. He's also got 6 rushing TDs, which is tied for the 5th most in the NFL. And that's not just among quarterbacks. That's amongst everyone, running backs included. So that just shows what kind of a dynamic, multi-threat offensive weapon this guy has been. Yes, A.J. Brown has been a big addition. Yes, he has a great offensive line in front of him. Yes, the defense behind him on the other side of the football is playing very well. But Hurts, to me, is the catalyst of why they are playing as well as they have been, why they've been able to look as dominant as they have 8 games into the season. So the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles and their quarterback Jalen Hurts, I got to go with him here.
I'm glad, because I wouldn't have picked him.
Oh.
Who's your next?
Josh Allen's my next one. Have to pick Josh Allen here. He's first in the NFL in big-time throws with 21. He's first in big-time throw percentage with 7. He's got like Jalen Hurts, he's got a 92.8 rushing grade, 31 first downs just on the ground, which just shows what kind of an incredible offensive weapon he is. Now, I'm a little bit worried about the elbow. That's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about here.
In like 3 hours, you might be regretting this pick.
I might be regretting this pick. However, I think that Josh Allen, at the very least, is still coming back at some point this year, even if he misses a couple of weeks to get that elbow right. He was able to finish the game. And you know what, Mike? Even if he misses time, if he comes back, guts through that injury, if this Buffalo Bills team is playing to an incredible point where he is once again the catalyst focal point of that offense, that's only going to help his MVP candidacy, because people are going to look at him and how tough that he played and how he was out there gutting it for his team and the incredible performances that he was able to put on while not being at 100%. We all know that people like great storylines when they vote for MVP, right? That's something that they love. Josh Allen's playing for a energetic Buffalo Bills team that a lot of people predicted to win the Super Bowl. They were an absolute house to start the season. I still think they could be that once the season ends and we get into the playoffs, and Josh Allen's a massive reason why. So didn't play his best game this past weekend, but everybody's got their struggles of games. Total body of work. I got faith that Josh Allen's going to be right there, even if he misses a little bit of time with this elbow injury.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I was going to draft Josh Allen either. I'm glad that I got the snake, because I'm getting the two guys that I wanted to pick here in this spot. And the first one I'm going for is the guy who is leading the NFL in passer rating currently at 115.9, leading the NFL in yards per attempt currently at 9.2 yards per attempt. It is one Tua Tagovailoa, undefeated in starts that he has also finished this season for the Miami Dolphins. 15 touchdowns, ranks 5th despite only playing in 7 games, I guess 6.5 games this season. And before you want to talk about the offense and, Tua's noodle arm, he has the 4th deepest average depth of target in the NFL this season. It is not a underneath, check it down, let the guys run after the catch short offense. He's doing some of it with his arm through the air. And his guys are getting open, but he's also throwing them open. I can't believe I'm saying this. Go to Emmanuel Acho's Twitter, look at a couple of the throws he highlighted from this past week's game. Tua is balling right now. Well, he's shown over the past couple weeks, highest graded quarterback in the NFL so far this season. This continues, and he puts up statistically what he has over the rest of the season. That's a conversation. The amount of times that a guy has by far and away led the NFL in yards per attempt and passer rating, like he is right now. 0.7 yards per attempt higher than the next closest quarterback in Jalen Hurts so far this season. That's massive. So I'm going Tua Tagovailoa with my draft pick here.
You gave me a smug look last time when I picked the guys that you weren't going to pick. I'm giving you a little bit of a smug look right now.
By all means. By all means.
I would not have picked Tua. Look, I'm not hating on the dude. By far in first place, EPA per pass. Or EPA per play, I believe is what it was. The 91.9 passing grade so far this season. He's got the 80% adjusted completion percentage. So Tua's definitely got the stats. He's got the stats to get there. 10 big-time throws, 9 turnover-worthy plays, a little bit closer to what we want. I think that we might see a little bit of regression at some point in the season, but I'm not gonna say any more names about this current Dolphins team, because I don't know who you're gonna pick next, and I don't want to sway you one way or another.
My next pick, little off the wall here, but I'm going to go Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks, leading the NFL right now with a 73.1 completion percentage. Could very well break the single-season record in that regard with a hot second half to the season. Obviously wasn't given any chance with kind of that situation there in Seattle to do what he's done, and is very much in contention for the 2 or 3 seed there with his performance so far, obviously leading the NFC West at this point in time. 18 big-time throws on the season, 5.8% big-time throw rate. That's 3rd in the NFL right now behind Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. 107.2 passer rating. That's 3rd as well in the NFL right now. The volume, not quite there like some of the top guys in the NFL. Really the only thing kind of holding him back at this point. But if we see what we've seen kind of the offense look like with Kenny Walker in the backfield, how efficient they've been, they may not lose a lot more games. And at that point, if you're looking at supporting cast, Geno Smith is going to get a nod for that regard compared to a lot of the other guys on this list.
Geno was on the list. Geno was definitely high on my list. He was He's number 1 in the NFL in big time he's 4th in the NFL in big time throws with 18. But his completion percentage over expectation stat, which it's something that I love that he is at the top of, because this was somebody who, when you look at the rest of his career, right, you could almost call Geno Smith a comeback player of the year, but he's in both conversations. I don't know if he can't win comeback player of the year, right, just because he wasn't a starter.
I don't know how that works. I think anyone can win comeback player of the year.
Yeah, anybody can?
I think anyone can.
Really?
It's just like who you think.
Interesting.
It's just like you can name any player in the NFL.
Well, I mean, like, he's obviously, I think that he's got that on lock if he's eligible for that. But definitely an MVP candidate, because when you looked at what the Seattle Seahawks were going to be, a lot of people predicting 3, 4, 5 wins. They've already eclipsed it. They have already eclipsed it going into the year. I can't remember what their over-under total was in Vegas. Had to be like, 4.5, 5.5? Already over it. Yeah. And Geno Smith's the big reason why. I think that Geno Smith, yes, you could point to a lot of different things. The 2 rookie offensive tackles playing well. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett still playing well. Kenneth Walker obviously having a huge season. Rashad Penny before him. The defense, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant. So many guys there who are playing well. Uchenna Nwosu. But I think they are all playing as well as they are, as intangible as it is to say this, because of Geno Smith. Because they all have this belief. All of a sudden they went from this team that nobody expected anything from to a powerhouse team. And Geno Smith kind of gives you that identity. I think that goes into MVP as well. Okay, so you got Patrick Mahomes, Tua, and then Geno. I have Jalen. I got Josh Allen. And my next pick here, as we are going around the horn, is Joe Burrow. I'm going to take Joe Burrow, quarterback, obviously, of the Cincinnati Bengals. When you look at Joe Burrow, since week 3, okay, if you take out those first 2 games, people want to say, like, oh, body of work. Okay, sure. But if you take out those first 2 weeks, Burrow, 2nd in the NFL behind only Tua in EPA per play. 2nd in PFF passing grade behind only Tua. He's got 15 passing touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, 12 big-time throws, 4 turnover-worthy plays. If Joe Burrow can continue this incredible play that he has had over the last, 7 weeks now, if he can continue this while not having Jamar Chase, this guy's got to get catapulted to the top 3 or maybe at the very top of this conversation.
Can I make your case for you? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, look, Quinn, I knew that you were going to jump in at some point. I could literally feel it. So what are you going to say here?
He's top 3 in yards and touchdowns, and he's arguably one of the most popular players in the league. Do you know who wins MVPs? Guys that are top 3 in yards and touchdowns, and arguably some of the most popular player in the league. I mean, like, whether that's right or wrong, like, that plays a huge factor into
Burrow's
it.
got the notoriety. He's got the pregame suits. He's got the swagger. He's got everything. And again, I say it again. If he is able to continue this play without Jamar Chase, that is a true MVP kind of argument. Yep. Most valuable of being able to keep this Bengals offense legit where it needs to go without having its best offensive weapon.
But that, to me, is the thing is I worry about. Last 2 weeks, 232 passing yards, 206 passing yards. Obviously, a lot of this past week was because they ran the ball so well. But I just think it's going to look vastly different with Jamar Chase, that it's not going to be top 3 in passing yards, top 3 in passing touchdowns. It is going to go back to the run game we saw this year, and it's going to just look different in terms of explosiveness without him in the lineup. So that's why I didn't go. But if he does, yes, give it to him. If he keeps playing like this without Jamar Chase in the lineup, it's going to be difficult. Or keep playing like he has over the course of the season without Jamar Chase in the lineup. It's going to be difficult to not have him in the mix.
All right. You picked one Dolphins player.
Ooh.
I'm picking the other, baby.
I love it.
I'm taking Tyreek Hill. I'm taking Tyreek Hill now as my 4th pick here for this MVP. And in fact, I would have taken Tyreek Hill above Tua.
Above Tua.
Sacrilegious, I know, because it is a quarterback award. But PFF's own Mike Renner tweeted out this morning that Tyreek Hill is on pace for 2,085 receiving yards on the season. 121 more than Calvin Johnson's record. Okay, Calvin Johnson did not win MVP when he broke the record back in 2012. You know who did, though? That was the Adrian Peterson year. Why did Adrian Peterson win it? Well, one, because he was obviously put up monster stats, but he crossed the 2,000-yard mark. That, to me, is why he won MVP, because people were able to say over 2,000, over 2,000, over 2,000. you want to give people a storyline to be able to follow. If Hill gets over 2,000 yards, when you look at Tua's yards, because of the time that he has missed, it's not going to stack up nearly as much as it is against some of those other top players. Now, would the more by game and analytical stats help Tua out? Yes, you mentioned them there. But we know what voting is. We know who these voters are. We know what they look towards. If Tyreek Hill gets anything over 2,000 yards receiving, his case, I am arguing, is going to be stronger than the guy who's throwing in the ball. He's got 99 targets on the year, 76 receptions, over 1,100 yards already. And what I love about Tyreek Hill, 48 first downs. This guy leads the NFL in first downs that he has picked up so far this season. He is so much of a major game changer for everything that's going on in Miami. And even with Jalen Waddle playing next to him, another guy who is top 5 in the NFL in receiving, Tyreek Hill is on pace to break the record. And I'm telling you, if he gets over 2,000 yards, he's got a legit shot to win MVP. I would argue, in the voters' minds, he would have a better shot than the guy throwing in the ball.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. Tyreek Hill is fucking awesome. And he is a big reason for the success there. So I like that pick over like some of the other quarterbacks here that are even left.
All right, you got two. You get two back-to-back. Round us out. What do we got?
I am going to go also a non-quarterback here. And you just mentioned Adrian Peterson, the last non-quarterback to win MVP. I'm going to go running back. And it's one Derrick Henry.
Oh.
Because they're going to be a division winner. Tennessee Titans are going to win the AFC South, the more likely than not. And the run he is on now, with 5 straight 100-yard games, averaging almost 140 yards rushing per game over that span, 7 touchdowns over that span. If he continues that run, anything close to that for the rest of the season, he is going to break 2,000 yards. That run extrapolated out over the next 9 games means he will be 4 yards short of Eric Dickerson's rushing record, over 20 touchdowns, in the mix to touch LT's touchdown record. If he's anywhere near those 2 numbers, Derrick Henry could be in the MVP conversation.
I don't hate it. I don't think a running back's going to win it unless they, do what Adrian Peterson did. But look, I'm there for you for being bold. By the way, I couldn't remember what the Vikings record was the year that Adrian Peterson won MVP. They were 10-6. They were a wild card team. Dolphins could absolutely be in that same kind of category, be a high win, double-digit wild card kind of team. Or shoot, even win the division. They're right there. They could win the division. And if they do, if the Dolphins end up upsetting the Bills for that division, Tyreek Hill gets over 2,000 yards, it's already even strengthening his argument even more. All right, who's your last pick?
And then my last one, Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Now, obviously, another guy who could be a division winner.
All right.
There in the AFC North. And here's the stat. And the passing stats obviously are not touching some of the top guys. Touchdown passes 16, that's in the mix. I believe that's top 5 in the NFL. But rushing yards, he's on pace for almost 1,200 rushing yards this season to shatter the quarterback rushing record that, oh, by the way, he himself holds. So should he do that with any modicum of success through the air, with what we know right now is one of the worst supporting casts in the NFL in terms of receiving talent with Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. Now, he does that and gets, a 2-3 seed in the AFC. Lamar Jackson's in the mix for MVP.
Yeah, this is the correct pick here for you. There's not. Honestly, it's a massive drop-off after this one. I think there's a legit argument for, I'll say 8. I don't know if Derrick Henry has a legit argument, but you're staking a claim for it, so I respect it. I think there's a legit argument for 8 guys that we have talked about. It's kind of a stretch once we get to these other players. So there's Mike's MVP candidate draft. To Patrick Mahomes, you got Tua Tagovailoa, you got Geno Smith, you got Derrick Henry, and you got Lamar Jackson there at the end. Lamar, I will just say, fantastic value getting him there at number 5. I will round my draft off with the chain man himself, the shirtless chain man himself. I'll go Kirk Cousins. I'll go Kirk Cousins on this one. Vikings are sitting there at 7-1. Kirk's not having his best year statistically, but it is a good year in a lot of ways. And again, I was very encouraged by what I saw this past weekend, how much confidence he played with, being a comeback type of a player. That gives me the confidence to at least believe that it's still in their in him to when the Vikings play a more notable game, right? Not against Washington in a local television match. Maybe it's something where it's a little bit more prime time. he can show up when his back is against the wall. He can have that kind of signature moment. So like I said, it's a little bit of a drop off after probably the top 8 guys, but I'll go Captain Kirk here. I'll give him a spot on the team as my last pick to see if I can throw a Hail Mary.
See, if I was going to throw a flyer out there, it'd be Brady. He's second in the NFL in passing yards right now. He's really just lacking the obviously efficiency numbers, but he's going to get every opportunity down the stretch with obviously, a solid wide receiving core.
Sure.
To put up numbers.
It's not going to.
And if they win, it's obviously going to be all on his back.
It's true. It is.
So if he goes on a hot streak of touchdown passes, and obviously heading into the last season, everyone would love to give Tom Brady one more MVP to ride out whatever. That's probably where I would have gone with Kirk Cousins. But either way, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I wasn't gonna put Brady on there just because the chat would have eviscerated me if I would have ended up doing that. And 2, I still think the Bucs are broken. I still think they're broken. I still don't think they're going to be that much better, even though the Brady is playing well. I don't think he's going to put himself within that conversation. All right, what do you guys think? That's my list. You can see it up on the screen right now. I got Hurts, I got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Tyreek Hill, Kirk Cousins. Very happy about my draft there. Who got the better 5? Who got the better 5 between myself and between Mike? Whose group do you think has a better chance of nailing this year's MVP? Hurricane saying Trev trying to keep it together when you were talking about Brady, I assume. People were freaking out when I picked Kirk. Daniel said, "Oh, Trevor." Yeah, that's about right. That's about right there. Kirk Cousins, though, can't deny.
Yeah. I think I'm getting it just because I do think it's Patrick Mahomes. I think he'll end up winning it.
I do. You got the number one overall pick. You got the number one overall pick. That's you should be in the driver's seat for it. All right, now it's time for everybody's favorite segment on the show. It is Dogs of the Week, baby.
Dog. He gets after it. He's a dog. Dog. He scored 5 touchdowns. Dog. He's a dog. He's a dog. He is a dog. Absolutely.
Dogs of the Week. We love this segment because it's a chance for us to give a shout out to all the guys that maybe we didn't have the chance to talk about over the last couple of days. We want to hear from you guys as well. Who is your dog of the week? Could be a notable player, could be an obvious name, somebody who absolutely went off, or could be an underrated player as well, somebody who's showing out, who deserves that dog of the week tag. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Who is your first dog of the week?
First dog of the week, got to give some love to Justin Fields, Chicago Bears quarterback. Whenever you set a record, you're going to probably make dogs of the week. 178 rushing yards. That was a quarterback record, I believe. 8 broken tackles on 15 carries. Would have been nice. Now, has over 408 rushing yards in his last 4 games, has been on a heater of late, with them letting him cook on the ground, on pace for 1,135 rushing yards this season. I don't really care what you do through the air. When you're that efficient on the ground as a quarterback, you're going to be tough to stop. And we've seen that with the Bears offense of late. Would have looked also a lot better. Could have gotten the W were it not for Equinemius St. Brown's stone hands. So, Justin Fields, dog.
I love it, man. Love the shout out. We talked about this yesterday. He's playing with so much confidence.
Yep.
When you have given him the ability to be a rusher, I just think that he now doesn't have to panic. And that's what I felt like it was. It was almost like, hey, Justin, we don't want you to run. So Justin only thought that he could solve problems with his arm. In reality, you drafted him to solve problems with his arms and his legs. So now you're giving him the full buffet of talent that he has there to be able to indulge the way that he wants. So good call out there on Justin Fields. He had a fantastic day as a dog of the week. I know we're going to get Justin Fields in the chat as well. My first dog of the week, I'm going with rookie safety, Kirby Joseph. If you watch that Packers game, Mike, you understand what kind of an impact player Kirby Joseph was this past week. 90.1 overall grade the Lions safety had. He had 2 interceptions, a massive pass breakup that counts as 1 forced incompletion, but holy cow, I thought it was phenomenal the way that he played that ball in the air, was able to knock it away. Only allowed 3 receptions, 38 yards, and man, he was getting his nose in there on tackles. When the Packers were at the goal line, when they were within the 10, Kirby Joseph was getting physical, man. He just all around the entire performance, by far his best game so far this year as a rookie safety. He stood out in a huge way. So it's not just the big impact plays that he had, but also the mentality. Love what I saw from him on the goal line. That dog mentality, that was Kirby Joseph the whole game.
And I just want to highlight, the grade's fantastic this year, 89.7 coverage grade, but those can sometimes be fluky at safety positions when you kind of luck into plays. The plays he was making, outside of obviously the tipped interception, which is just one of his 2 interceptions, the plays he was making on the football were not lucky plays. We're not, a throw really brought him back in. It's like, no, that was Kirby Joseph making high-end plays on the football for safety that your run-of-the-mill average safety just does not make. So Kirby Joseph, Lions got something special. There was always a guy who was like boom or bust-ish as a prospect just because you hadn't seen a lot of tape on him. He only started 1 year at a program like Illinois, which, if you're a talented dude that's just like looking like one of the top safeties in the NFL, you probably should be seeing the field a little earlier at Illinois. But whatever it was hampering him early on in his career is gone because he is a straight-up playmaker on the football. Lions got a real deal safety.
A couple of early dog of the week shout-outs from the chat. Sharilla said Bryce Huff, situational pass rusher for the Jets. Dog. I didn't have him on my list, but I almost did. I know that you didn't have him there as well, so wanted to shout him out. Matthew Judon, 4 sacks. Dog. Carlos giving him a shout-out there. Khalil Mack. Honestly, so neither of us have Khalil Mack. Neither of us also have Cordarrelle Patterson. But honestly, from that game, Mack ripping that ball from Drake London and taking it all the way down the field, I think is true dog mentality, as was Cordarrelle Patterson laying the absolute hammer on Drew Tranquil as he was going into the end zone.
That was a all-time truck stick.
Classic truck stick. So I think that definitely deserved a shout-out there. You know what? The chat is saying Joe Mixon. Neither of us have Joe Mixon, and I think it's because he was the complete obvious that we talked about a lot yesterday. So I'm glad the chat brought him up because Joe Mixon, absolutely 100% dog of the week for getting his 5 touchdowns this past week. He was incredible. He was so much of the Cincinnati Bengals offense. We don't have him here on our list, but I'm glad that you guys have him on your list in the chat because he absolutely deserves a shout out there. I have Justin Houston, though. I didn't know that we were going to be talking about Justin Houston nearly as much at the beginning of the show, so I knew that I had to give him a shout out at some point. Got him as a dog of the week because the man is aging like a fine wine, dude. We talked about how he's got over 110 sacks now on the season. He's got a sack in every single game that he played this year. He's played 5 games. Week 1, sack. Week 2, sack. Week 7, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Week 8, 2 more sacks. This past week, 2.5 and an interception. He's got a 20.5 pass rush win rate on the year. He hasn't played in every game, but when he has been out there, Mike, this dude is showing why he is not just one of the best pass rushers that we've seen in the last, handful of years, decade, half decade, but one of the best all time, and that's where he's going to be on that list.
Yeah, at the end of the broadcast, I think I knew the age of every single Ravens player. They wouldn't stop talking about it. They wouldn't stop bringing it up. They're like, he's 34. It's like, okay, we get it. The Ravens have a bunch of veterans, but that's their MO. That's like they've been their strategy of late. And along the defensive line, I love the strategy because wily veterans like a Justin Houston, like a Calais Campbell, they age well because they know how to win. Maybe they're not winning at the same level that maybe they once were and maybe aren't that same high-end juice to get off the edge, but they still have been around the block so long that they know how to win. When you get 4 guys out there like that, you're going to have one of them, 2 of them getting after a quarterback consistently. I think we've seen that with the Ravens' defensive line of late.
Matthew shouting out Ryan Neal, the safety for the Seahawks, who has been playing well all season long. Love that shout out, absolutely. DJ going what feels like a weekly occurrence, a Dameon Pierce dog of the week shout out. Love that as well. Mike, who's your next guy on the list? Who you got?
Next guy on the list, I am going to go one Travis Etienne. He has been cooking ever since James Robinson got traded to the New York Jets. 3 straight 100-yard games now. In this game against the Las Vegas Raiders, 109 yards in the ground, 2 touchdowns, and 13 broken tackles. He has now set career highs for broken tackles in 4 straight weeks, 21 broken tackles over the past 2 weeks. The level of explosiveness he brings to the table, and he looks beefed up from his time at Clemson. He's got a little more power to his game than I think he ever really showed at Clemson. And who's really hating to see this right now, who really is looking at Travis Etienne's production and crying into their pillow at night?
Who?
Steelers fans. You drafted the wrong running back.
I thought you were going to say Urban Meyer.
Well, Herb's fine. He's crying into
a giant pile of money.
I was going to make a bad joke there. But Najee Harris looks nothing like what Travis Etienne looks like. Has never at any point in his NFL or collegiate career looked anything like what Travis Etienne's looking like right now. And even with an improved offensive line, I don't think you're getting the production that Travis Etienne's doing. Like, Travis Etienne just looks special.
Is that 3 straight 100-yard rushing games,
Yes.
right? Because I believe that if you go back to the last 5 games that he had and you include receiving stats as well, he's got 5 straight weeks of over 100 all-purpose yards as well. So, I mean, he's a monster for him. And it to me, it is ironically funny that Urban Meyer clearly drafted Travis Etienne because he was pouting that he didn't get Kadarius Toney. And now he is playing, and he's becoming that player. Like, he's becoming the player that they thought that he was going to be all along. My final guy that I want to shout out here is my dog of the week, Kader Kohou, the undrafted cornerback from Texas A&M Commerce, now on the Miami Dolphins. Monster game this past weekend. 80.9 overall grade, 84.9 coverage grade, which was the highest coverage grade of any rookie this past week. Only allowed 4 catches, 19 total yards, 4 solo defensive stops. Beautiful. Quarterback rating of just 62.2 allowed. And the corner led the team with 8 tackles. That is a dog mentality, baby. Not just being an undrafted free agent, but coming on, playing a cornerback position that sometimes gets a bad rap for not being physical enough. This guy was fearless this past week. Loved what I saw from Kader Kohou and the Miami Dolphins this week. Had to give him a shout out for my last dog of the week.
Yeah, and I love how, the scouting process, everyone says, if you got talent, the NFL finds you. Well, they did find him. But I think it's pretty clear that if he would have gone to a bigger school and been at a bigger program, he's not going to UDFA. Because he looks from day one like he belongs in the NFL. Far more than Noah Benogany quite literally has never done.
Felipe said Darth Kader is a nickname. Wow. That is a sick nickname. All right, who's your last one?
Last one, and we kind of talked about it in the MVP conversation, but Tyreek Hill, yet again, 143 receiving yards, 7 catches, a touchdown in this one. And I just want to talk about extrapolating out this season that he's on right now. Over 2,000 yards. He is going to shatter the PFF record for yards per route run. You see right there, 3.82.
That's pretty wild.
Next best in the NFL is Stephon Diggs at 2.93. The difference between him and the second best is the same difference between the second best and the 15th best wide receiver in the NFL right now in terms of yards per route run. An efficient season like we have never seen in a per-game basis. So he's going to break Calvin Johnson's receiving yards record if he goes on this. But in a 16-game season, he would be only 1 yard per game less than Calvin Johnson, 3 yards behind him at this pace right now that he would finish. And in Calvin Johnson's season, where he did break that record, he averaged 2.55 yards per route. It was just because they passed a zillion fucking times that year. he was targeted 199 times that season. Tyreek Hill, right now, best out there doing it.
Coltrane, honorable mention for dog of the week, TJ Hockenson. He said Vikings don't win this week without him. I agree. Hockenson played well this past week. So big, whether it was the Roquan Smith trade, playing well last night. TJ Hockenson really getting his nose in there, quite literally as a blocker and as a receiver. The Vikings, I agree with Cole. They don't win that game without him. There we go. All right. Well, those are our dogs of the week. Thank you guys so much for sharing yours. Oh, one last one from It Scott. I'm just scrolling up here. Javon Hargrave, 3 sacks. Dog of the week. You guys are the best for getting in on that segment. It's one of my favorite things that we do here on this show. Let's get the people out of here with some early lines, Mike. When you look at Week 11, so this upcoming slate, whether it's Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, what's a spread, what's a line that you think is pretty juicy this week?
I like the Titans. 3-point favorites at home against the Denver Broncos. Broncos can't move the football on anyone.
No.
And especially not this Titans and this defensive line. Obviously, Green Line doesn't see a lot of great spreads at this point in the year. They usually see them early on the season. You're really looking at over-unders at this point in time.
They love the over.
Somehow love the over. But that game, I don't see scoring a lot of points. So obviously, 39 is very low, but I don't really care who's at quarterback either because, again, it goes back to Derrick Henry, who's been on a tear of late, and I don't see that changing.
These are 2 elite defenses, right? Yes. So I understand why the number for the over-under is so low because the Broncos are one of the best defenses in the NFL. They have a ton of pressures. They're playing great in the secondary as well. And then, obviously, we saw what the Titans were able to do against Patrick Mahomes on the road. Now everybody gets up for the Chiefs. Everybody plays their best game against the Chiefs. But 2 really good defenses. I think I'm agreeing with you, though. I do like the Titans there as well. I have been riding with the Seahawks all season long. Well, obviously, not for week 1 and week 2, but ever since then, I've been a believer. When it was obvious to be a believer, I've been a believer. Here they are again, underdogs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a very good football team. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a good football team. Now, Greenline hates my bet as well. Greenline thinks that the Buccaneers minus 2.5 is favorites. Now, remember, this game is played in Germany. This game's going to be played in Munich, so the Buccaneers technically aren't at home. They're giving this an A. You guys can see this over on the PFF app. If you don't have it right now, you got an Apple device, go to the App Store, type in PFF, Pro Football Focus. You'll be able to find it, and you can get all of these bets right in the palm of your hand. I don't care. Green line is overestimated. The Bucs a little bit too much this season.
They've been hating on Geno. They have not bought into Geno.
And we need to buy in. I've been making money off of Geno all year long. So I'm going with Geno Smith to defeat my bad Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There we go.
Emotional hedge. Emotional hedge.
It is an emotional hedge. It's absolutely an emotional hedge.
I can't hate on it.
Quinn, question of the day. Let's wrap it up here. Justin Houston has 110.5 sacks in his career, the only active players who have more. I think our final answer on this desk is going to be Von Miller and J.J. Watt.
Yep. I'll go with it.
All right. Okay. We think that's going to be it. I'm actually going to look up career sack totals because that's our official guess, but I want to see how close we were for some of these other guys as well. So Quinn, what's the answer here? Before I fully look this up, who are the two?
So you got 50%. It is Von Miller. Somebody, I don't know if it was you or the chat that mentioned it. Cam Jordan.
Wow,
was the other guy.
It was Cam Jordan.
Damn.
He's just been consistently solid.
You were pooping on it.
I did a little.
You were pooping on it, and I was like, "Hey, long career, consistent." Damn,
they're all the same draft though. How wild is that? I mean, obviously that's how you rack up a ton of sacks by playing a long time. But those three guys.
Chandler Jones is close.
In that mix
Chandler Jones is very close. So Von Miller has 122.2.5. That's unbelievable. Cam Jordan has 112. So he's got 1.5 more than Justin Houston, who's next on the list. Then Chandler Jones has 108. J.J. Watt has 106.5. Aaron Donald's got 103. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Then Robert Quinn. We brought up Robert Quinn. He's got 102.
Aaron Donald drafted 3 years.
No way.
3 years after all those guys. Not except for Houston, obviously. So.
Carlos Dunlap has 99.5 sacks?
Damn.
No way.
Carlos Dunlap was really good for a while. And then he sold his house in Cincinnati.
All those guys.
Carlos Dunlap's had one season where he's had double-digit sacks. One. And this dude's about to break 100 sacks in a career. That's
look up his batted passes numbers because that was always his big thing.
Where were his?
He batted a ton of passes. I have no idea where he's at. Maybe I should save that for tomorrow.
I would have to look that up. We might be able to do a batted passes stat for.
You know what? Favorite batted passes stat? Joey Bosa. He's 6'5". Been in the league since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Never batted a pass in his career.
What?
Never had a batted pass in his career. Not a single one. He is by far and away played the longest career of like a defensive lineman to not have a batted pass.
Someone should ask him about this.
2,555 pass
Can we get him on the show? How many does his brother have? Is it like Todd?
His brother doesn't have that many either. It's just the way they rush the passer.
Did their dad just teach him like, hey, just lift weights and never go for the batted passes?
Yeah.
Never jump.
Never stop your rush.
Wow.
Batted passes don't make you the money.
That's also very true. Batted passes do not make you the money. That is the motto that we are going out with today. Quinn, do we have a chat champ for the day?
We do. This has been a long time coming because he's been in second a lot. It's Walt.
There it is, Walt.
Hey.
There we go.
One stipulation, Walt.
The Joey Bosa is overrated blast.
Walt, you got to fucking behave tomorrow. That's the only stipulation, but congrats, Walt. This is a long time.
Good job, Walt. Always in the chat. I saw Walt earlier in the show say that he only does 7-round mock drafts. Not 1-round mock drafts. He goes the full distance every time.
I don't blame him.
7-round mocks. Could you do a 7-round mock right now? I don't think you could. Walt could. Walt could. That's why he's the chat champ. There we go. Walt. Quinn tells you to behave, but enjoy it. Enjoy the crown for another day. You got to come back in the chat tomorrow and, of course, represent the good people on what is going to be a fun Wednesday on the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Mike Renner. For everybody in the production portal or whatever they want to call it, thank you for watching. It's Just Football. We're going to be right here 11 o'clock tomorrow. We'll see you guys then.
It's not about politics. It's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. He's just gonna play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
Not just get in and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.